What if you woke up tomorrow and the world had just changed forever? Imagine the internet is broken, the shelves in every store are empty, and the two most powerful nations on Earth are shooting at each other. Now, this isn't some Hollywood movie plot. It is a scenario that military strategists and world leaders are constantly, and I mean constantly, worrying about. So today, we're going to break down exactly what that would look like and why it's so terrifying. And look, we're not just talking about some distant conflict here. A war between the United States and China would set off a chain reaction of disasters that would affect every single person on this planet. It's a situation so devastating that just understanding it is one of the most important things we can do to help prevent it. So here's the really wild part about all of this. Pretty much every expert agrees that neither the United States nor China actually wants this war. Seriously, both sides know the cost would be absolutely catastrophic. Which leads to the big question, right? How on earth could a conflict that nobody wants actually start? Well, if you ask pretty much any military strategist out there, the answer is always the same: Taiwan. This small island is the single most dangerous flashpoint on the entire planet. It's this tiny spot on the map where decades of tension, immense economic importance, and fierce national pride could just explode. And you might be asking, why? Why this one little island? Well, it's because Taiwan isn't just a political chess piece anymore. It is the literal heart of the modern global economy. Taiwan makes more than 90% of the world's most advanced computer chips. That phone in your pocket, the car you drive, all that incredible AI stuff that's coming, yeah, it all runs on chips made right there. And that right there creates this massive, massive dilemma. On one side, you've got China, which sees Taiwan as a breakaway province that must be brought back into the fold. It's a core piece of their national identity. On the other side, you have the US, with its policy of strategic ambiguity, basically not officially recognizing Taiwan, but legally promising to help it defend itself. It's this super delicate dance, and it could shatter in an instant. Okay, so what if that dance stops? What if the balance breaks? Well, things would unravel with a speed and a violence that is just hard to even comprehend. The first 24 hours would be a firestorm across every possible domain of warfare, unlike anything the world has ever seen. Think about it. In the first hour, the war kicks off in cyberspace. Power grids flicker. Financial markets freeze. Just an hour later, the war goes to space. GPS and communication satellites start getting knocked out of the sky. By hour 4, the shooting starts. Hundreds of missiles slam into US bases in Japan and Guam, and the US fires back. By hour 8, a massive naval battle erupts. And before you've even had a chance to really process what's happening, the world as we know it is already in a total freefall. To really get a sense of the scale here, just look at this number: $20 billion. That's roughly what a single US aircraft carrier strike group costs. Losing one isn't just losing money. It would be the biggest US military disaster since Pearl Harbor. And remember, there are thousands of sailors on that ship. And by the time that first day is over, the skies are filled with the biggest dogfights since the 1940s. Meanwhile, what's happening at the UN? Nothing. It's totally paralyzed by veto power. And America's key allies, Japan, South Korea, Australia, they're stuck making these impossible choices that will change everything, for them and for us. So here's the thing. This isn't some far-off war you just watch on the news. Nope, this one comes for everyone, right where you live, by completely shattering the systems that our modern lives depend on. Let's talk about how the whole world just breaks. To really get a grip on this, just think back to the pandemic. The empty shelves, the crazy delays for everything. Now, as this quote says, multiply that feeling by 100. The global supply chain wouldn't just get stressed out, it would literally stop. It would just break. I mean, think about it. China is basically the world's factory. They make almost a third of everything. The moment their factories go offline, along with all those critical chips from Taiwan, you have essentially just pulled the plug on the entire global economy. Factories everywhere that make cars, phones, even refrigerators, they'd all shut down within weeks. $20 a gallon for gas. Could you even imagine? See, about 40% of all the stuff shipped by sea goes right through the South China Sea. The moment that becomes a war zone, all that shipping just stops. Oil can't get through. Prices would explode to levels we can't even fathom, crippling everything that moves. And what happens when the economy gets hit that hard? You get this: mass unemployment. Economists figure US unemployment could hit 30%. That's Great Depression territory. We're talking millions and millions of people losing their jobs, their homes, everything. So, let's just recap the domino effect here. Financial markets would completely crater. Your 401k, your savings, poof, gone. A global food crisis would erupt because fuel and fertilizer just stop moving. And global trade, it just ceases to exist. This isn't just a bad recession, folks. This would be, without a doubt, the single greatest economic catastrophe in the history of the world. And all of that chaos leads us to the darkest place of all, the unthinkable question. What happens when a country with nuclear weapons starts to lose? And what does the world even look like if we manage to avoid the absolute worst-case scenario? Because this is the fact that hangs over everything. Both countries are nuclear powers. Now, nobody wants to use these things. They're the absolute last resort. But war has a brutal logic of its own, and it can push desperate leaders to do the unthinkable. There's a concept military folks talk about called the escalation ladder, and it is absolutely terrifying. It goes like this. Step 1. One side starts losing the regular war, badly. Step 2. Facing total collapse, they use one small nuclear weapon on a military target just to send a message. Step 3. The other side feels they have to respond with their own nuke. And step 4, in the panic and chaos, someone makes the call to just launch everything. It's a horrifying spiral that could literally end human civilization in less time than it takes to watch a TV show. And let's say you're one of the lucky ones who survives the blasts. The aftermath is its own global catastrophe. So much smoke and dust would be kicked up into the atmosphere that it would literally block out the sun, plunging the whole planet into what scientists call a nuclear winter. Farming would collapse worldwide. Hundreds of millions, maybe billions, of people would starve. Okay, but let's just say we get lucky and the nukes stay in their silos. The world that's left behind after a conventional war is still absolutely grim. You'd have a massive power vacuum, the end of globalization as we know it, and decades of trying to rebuild. Society would become poorer, more mistrustful, and frankly, a lot more dangerous. So, after walking through this absolute nightmare scenario, what's the one thing we absolutely have to remember? It's this. None of this is inevitable. A war like this is always a choice. It's never a destiny. Preventing it takes constant, hard, frustrating work. Things like diplomacy, understanding, compromise. This isn't our destiny. The future isn't written in stone. So, at the end of the day, it all comes down to this one simple question. I mean, after seeing what's at stake, the answer has to be a clear and resounding no. This potential future is a world of devastation, poverty, and fear. Making sure this never happens, well, that's probably the greatest challenge of our lifetime.